All right. Hi, everybody. Today we're talking through setting up a CRM with my friend who runs a plumbing company. So, the problem we're trying to solve today is that the way he currently has it set up is that all of his current contacts kind of just live in one sort of Excel document, and all of them are local businesses in his area that are certain types of businesses that might need some sort of long-term relationship with him versus simply residential properties. So what we're trying to do is make sure he uses the information he collects um, to the greatest extent to make sure that he's closing on those leads, and not only closing on those leads, but he's actually establishing a true sales funnel at the end of the day, because he is trying to introduce more methods outside of just door knocking to close leads, including cold calling and including follow-up campaigns. So we want to get from this sort of one-dimensional approach to his process and use all the information he's collecting and paying for to the best of his advantage. So here is the sort of process I am going to suggest to him. So staying within the Excel environment, the things he has been currently collecting include the name of the company, their address, phone number, what sort of company they are, their main contact's email account, as well as where they're located on Google Maps. And then this direction to next is just a category that shows how to get to the next door knocking location. So this is also a Google Maps link typically. He just has one sheet with these sort of columns in it with a whole bunch of names in it. But what we're trying to figure out is how can we set up a CRM that will utilize this information properly to the point that once we have a really well-established system directly within Excel, we'd be able to get a high-powered tool that can automate a lot of these tasks for us. So starting with this sort of categories or workflow, these are called stages. So the things that you have to think about when setting up a CRM is who are all the current people that I have contacted, and what sort of buckets do they fall in, and write out and just simply define what those buckets are. The simple buckets that I've kind of worked with him to figure out include very new leads who we haven't reached out to, nor drove to, nor called yet. This next bucket of leads that we might have already cold called, we haven't driven to. And then the following stages include we already driven to them. Now we just need to follow up and try to close that lead. And then there's a sent proposal category where you truly do a pitch with them and you send them some sort of paperwork. And then finally, later on, there'll be like a closed category and a declined category for people say, not right now. Either way, for all of these sort of stages, they're trying to get from this very large funnel into this very small sort of closing stage where you send a proposal and hopefully it gets approved. Then once you have that, you can move it to whatever sort of project management platform you're using or continue within Excel to manage those leads. So generally speaking, when I set up a CRM, there's two things I want to identify for every one of these stages, and that includes a definition and a task associated with the stage. So the definition of this first stage is leads generated through our lead gen engine. So he has software that he has set up to feed him information about local businesses that might fit his criteria. So that's already set up process, and that's automatic essentially. And then they get automatically added to this spreadsheet. So that's the definition of all these leads. We haven't contacted them, we haven't driven to them, nothing. What task do we want to execute every single time to make sure that we come up with some sort of result from that task where we can move them on to a new stage? The main goal of doing these cold calls is to just get their initial sort of word out about their business. It's not trying to close leads. It's not trying to convince people to buy with them. It's more so trying to educate, or market themselves to their audience. So when he is driving around door knocking, they have already seen his name before and would be more interested in working with them. So hence, the kind of task associated with this is to triple dial twice a day for 2 days, then maybe leave a voicemail if they don't answer. So what this is getting at is you're just trying to get on the phone for 2 days in a row. Triple dial means you call them, and if they don't hang up, you try them again immediately. And if they don't pick up, then you try them again for the third time. After the third time, you can leave a voicemail. So it's really just like making sure that if they maybe like you triple dial once in the morning, triple dial once in the evening, triple dial once in the morning the next day, evening the next day, and then leave a voicemail if they don't answer and say, hey, sorry, this is, so and so from local plumbing company who's just trying to reach you about our services, something like that. And the goal of that is to market themselves. This moves on. Once these tasks are completed, this sort of person, if we have, person number one here and all their information, we'll move to this next stage, which would be time to door knock at these folks. So we've already tried to reach them or have reached them via phone to discuss our offering, and now we're going out and door knocking with them to make sure that we meet them in person and establish that in-person relationship. Again, the task with this would be tried to go essentially 2 times. If they aren't there the first time or the right person isn't there the first time, you try to go back whenever they identify that time with you. And you kind of just start tracking all these things in a notes section and saying, hey, this is door knock attempt number 1 or door knock attempt number 2, whatever it may be, making sure you're tracking those things as you go on, because then once you completed these tasks, you can't keep them in the same stage, whether you were able to reach them or not. They have to move on to a new stage. Hence, push them to this post-drive follow-up stage, where you already drove to them, spoke with them, or left info about your company. So either way, whether you were able to contact them in this previous stage or not, you're leaving some sort of pamphlet for them, or you're leaving a handwritten note, or you actually had the blessing of speaking to whoever you needed to reach. Tasks associated with this stage would be try to book a time to talk more or with a different person, and send a proposal of some kind. So you want to push a proposal out as much as possible because, in my opinion, this is your lead sort of key performance indicator. Whether the proposals you're sending out directly influence the amount of sales that you're getting. So the more proposals you're able to send, generally speaking, you'll be able to get more, approved jobs in return. So I'm a big fan of just pushing proposals whenever you can, whether you have some sort of amazing agreement or not with the client. It becomes a numbers game at the end of the day. So you want to make sure that you're just pushing out proposals and not being pushy about it, but also trying to stay on top of it. So next category, you already sent the proposal. So send proposal. You want to try to close this lead by trying to follow up perhaps every day for 2 weeks, or do whatever you think in your power to close these leads, because these are the red hot leads that you've already spoke to and built rapport with, talked to maybe a handful of times. Now is when you're able to make your money and try to close these leads. So I just kind of made up this task. It could be whatever, this person thinks is best. But I think, for instance, you could try to alternate daily for the 2 weeks between calling, texting, and emailing them to try to get them to sign the proposal or close with you. Again, it could be whatever you think is, industry standard or what is appropriate and not, harassment, whatever it is. Try to, be forward about it, but not pushy about it. And then finally, you have, future on, if they do close with you, you would have this whole new close section. But there's also a decline section. So whenever someone negatively responded to your previous campaigns, so maybe they wanted nothing to do with you when you door knocked with them, or you sent them a proposal and they said, not now, whatever it might be, they declined you. you want to add them to some sort of nurture campaign after that, because things could change in the future. They could fire the plumber that they're currently using. They could do whatever, but you want to make sure that they're on some sort of automated task list where every 6 months or every year or every 1 month, depending on how they decline you will be reaching out to them in some capacity. And usually that's in like the manner of a newsletter, or just like a friendly text saying, trying to reconnect with them, whatever it might be. You have to define this task in more detail, but generally speaking, this is kind of an all-encompassing bucket where people decline you go, to make sure that you're still using their contact information to the best of your abilities, because there is a lot of deals to be had in the nurture sequences. Most people probably won't say yes right away to services like this, but if you're effective in making sure that you're continuing to put your name out there and build brand awareness in that area, then the deals will eventually come from this sort of bucket. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, and that's just kind of strategizing what your CRM should look like from the start. I'm always a big fan of setting these up in Excel prior to paying for one that has automated sort of emails and texts go out for you, maybe in these follow-up campaigns, or maybe you have some sort of platform that starts to call for you, whatever that might be. I like setting it all up and do all the tasks manually within Excel, because in this early on stage, when you're kind of setting up your CRM, you're going to have a lot of different changes. You're going to be like, oh, I don't like the task associated with this stage, or maybe we should have another bucket, or maybe reduce this by a bucket. The reason it's good to figure this out all in Excel is because then there's way less changes that you have to make when you pull it to a paid CRM. And then also you can choose the right CRM based on the things you're trying to automate. And you'll be like, oh, I wish this sort of follow-up process was, all kind of automated, where they get an automatic email with, an auto-generated proposal and they sign it. There's CRMs that do that for you, but you don't want to overpay for things that you won't use within them. Hence, you want to understand the process prior to buying some sort of platform out there. Yep, and I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. But as always, feel free to reach me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, where I'll post my links in the description of this video. And I always love chatting with people about this stuff, so don't hesitate to connect. And I'll see you in the next video.